Welcome everyone to the Best of Markham podcast, brought to you by me, Igor Klibanov from fitnesssolutions+.ca, your personal trainers for chronic conditions. Here with me today is Aleena Siddiqi. Aleena, thank you so much for being here today. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. So my name is Aleena Siddiqi. I am a chartered professional accountant, and I've been practicing out of my private practice for the last 10 years in Markham. I work with predominantly small businesses, and primarily in the space of assurance. Assurance, not to be confused with insurance, is actually if you need sort of like an audit or a review, or you're trying to obtain some sort of financing from the bank with regards to your small business, and you need a certified professional or accountant to sign off on your numbers. In addition to that, though, I do a lot of work with corporate tax. And I think that that is the area that people are a little more implicitly interested in, especially those who are small business owners, because I think everyone's kind of feeling the entrepreneurial spirit these days. I certainly see it. And I think that I really have come into recently being really passionate about that space of helping small business owners, especially those who are just getting started or just thinking about getting started, and sort of guiding them around along the right path, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I've very recently become passionate in the space, especially towards those communities that traditionally don't get into those rooms. So I've sat in those rooms with the big bankers. My, I went to the University of Waterloo. I did my master's there. That's when I graduated, and I wrote what at the time was the UFE, which is the big chartered accountancy exam. I articled with PricewaterhouseCoopers and then with Ernst and Young, and so I really want to bring that sort of big firm feel to the smaller client that they might, otherwise get either priced out of or just not feel like that they're at that caliber. But absolutely, everyone deserves to be at that caliber and have that caliber of professional service towards them.
Yeah, very valuable service. And it's actually a little bit meta that you are a small business owner yourself, helping small business owners.
Oh, absolutely. You'd be surprised how many times I get the question, so how do I price? And it's a valid question. It's an absolutely valid question. It's something that I had to navigate myself, in sort of trying to figure out, what to charge for my services, doing that market research, going out and figuring out, okay, well, what are people who are offering similar services charging? And
Yeah.
then on top of that, what value do I think that I bring to the client? And I find that especially those who are starting off in the small business space, especially the ones who are trying to sell some sort of product or good, but even their service
Mhm.
will always undervalue the time that
Yes.
they've put into something. And your labor absolutely counts for something, which is what I coach a lot of my clients on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear that. I volunteer for the Markham Small Business Center as a small business mentor, and I always ask my mentees, "What are your prices?" And the second question is, "How did you come up with those prices?"
Yeah.
I often hear three common answers, all of which are unfortunately wrong or not the best way of determining price. One answer is, "I look at what my competitors are charging, and I charge the same." Another answer is I look at what competitors are charging and I'll charge less in like mistakenly thinking that price is the most important criterion. It's actually,
That's a big one. A
yeah,
lot of people get caught up in that. Yeah.
yeah.
What's the third one?
And the third one is I look at what my competitors are charging and I charge more than they do, hoping that people will think that because I'm more expensive, I'm also better. Now, all three are mistakes. There are better, more scientific ways to determine pricing. Or in the product business, it's what does my product cost and what's my margin? What do I want to make
Yeah.
on
What do I want to make on it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
common, but not necessarily the most profitable way to choose pricing. But yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And I've been volunteering with a small business center for 9 years so far. So I often see these very common mistakes. People are very often using these methods, and except for one they might be overcharging, but most of them they're undercharging. Um,
Yep.
and price is elastic, unless somebody's selling a commodity. If they're selling a service, there's
Totally.
unique about them. There's something they can charge beyond what their competitors are charging if they figure out what is that makes them unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It all boils down to that economic principle, which, they talked about in economics class, which is it easier to sell 100 hot dogs for $1 each, or is it easier to sell one hot dog for $100?
Yeah,
And it depends on what your definition of easy is at the end of
yeah,
the day, right? Because either one could be easy for you, either one could be um, beneficial to you. It just really depends on where you want to position yourself in the market. All very important discussions to have.
yeah. Of course, I always say there's no easy or difficult. There's just different algorithms. For
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, of course, as you heard in the intro, my company is personal training. Is it easier to go to individuals and sell them personal training, or is it easier to go to corporations and sell them personal training? Like, what's easier, B2C sales or B2B sales? Well, there is
Yeah.
difficulty on both sides. B2B is way more bureaucratic. It takes longer, but it doesn't mean it's more difficult. It just takes more.
Yeah.
You just have to know the process of doing it. B2C is easy, is not, I shouldn't say easier, but faster. You just need way more of them to run your business.
Has a lower barrier to entry. Absolutely. Yep. Yep, for
with
sure.
with B2C, you need in as a personal trainer, all we need is maybe 15 sales, and we're
Yeah.
running a full-time business. With
Yep.
B2B, you can make one sale, and it's easy for your entire life. That's it.
Yeah.
Just different algorithms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Now, how'd you get into accounting?
Um, so funny enough, got into it right out of high school. I had an uncle who was an accountant, and I could not have imagined anything that I wanted to do less. But at the time, I had gotten into a really good program at the University of Waterloo, and sort of, the very frank I mean, to be very frank, I was a very artistic kid, and what I had wanted to do was direct movies, and told my parents I want to go to film school, and my parents, um, to their credit, to their credit, my parents were like, okay, that's an option. Like you could if that's what you wanted to do. But how about you try something that's a little more stable, and then once you've sort of gotten your bearings in that, that can be your fallback plan, and then you can go ahead and chase your dreams. Um, Fast forward, some 20 odd years, I'm here now. I actually, that same uncle who was an accountant, I actually ended up taking over his practice,
Oh, cool.
just through a couple of circumstances that led me to where I am. So I had a very interesting route to entrepreneurship because some of that customer base was already built in for me.
Mhm.
They were clients that had been serviced by my uncle for more than 30 years. And it was, a lot. Some of them were family-run businesses, some of them were national chains, some of them were, mid-sized manufacturers. And so like it was like a very much so a hodgepodge of clients. And so really sort of finding my own voice because they were, so used to dealing with my uncle, who was not let's be frank, a, a young woman in in her 20s. It did require me quite a bit to sort of fight for my voice in this arena. And I
Yeah,
think that's what sort of galvanized me to start really looking for the clients that I want to help, both from an economic perspective, but also from a social perspective. I see a lot of young women entrepreneurs, and I think it's certainly guidance that they need in a lot of ways, and I would love to be that bridge for them, because it is
yeah,
a world that I've been in. So that's how I got into it. Um, it was challenging. At the time, my uncle approached me about taking over his firm. I was a manager at Ernst Young, and I was really trying to navigate where I wanted to see my career going. Absolutely, as a CPA there, so it was a CA, now it's a CPA. That's a whole podcast episode in and of itself. But there are so many different career paths that you can go on. And truth be told, I was the thought of being an entrepreneur in this area and having my own practice was absolutely never crossed my mind. I had assumed that I would either join industry and climb the ranks, or that I would stick at the firms and try to, gun for partner. I didn't really think about trying to make it out on my own. And so it was a really big challenge for me, especially in the beginning. A lot of questions that I get with regards to entrepreneurship is, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
That's some of my questions.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. I'm glad I segued into it myself. So, what I love about it is the flexibility in terms of your time. There's nobody telling you, where you have to be, when you have to be there. I mean, certainly you have your clients, and they are absolutely mini bosses in the way that, you do have to service them. However, by and large, there's nowhere that you absolutely have to be at 9 a.m. every day, unless you want to be, right? And like unless that's the schedule that you've set for yourself. So really having that autonomy over your time, I think, is my absolute favorite part about being an entrepreneur. Um, my the other really, really wonderful parts about it all is really seeing that direct impact that you can have on a client. When you're at these really large firms, it's so easy to get lost in the sauce. You feel like I'm working on this file, and this file is going to get filed away and nobody's going to look at it, and one day it's just going to get destroyed. and, and really, something that just seeing the look on your client's face when they finally understand something, or when, they're getting some really good news, or when they're getting that big win, you almost feel like, at least in my line of work, you almost feel like you have that really special space in each of these businesses. So when you watch them grow, especially over a period of time, it's fantastic. It's a feather in their cap, but it also kind of becomes a feather in yours, because you're like, wow, it's like watching a child grow up. You're like, wow, I can't believe where you started from when we first started working together to where you are now. And if you look back at that, it's truly amazing.
Oh yeah.
The the challenging parts, though, especially in the very beginning, is when you're used to being traditionally employed, it's the cash flow.
Hmm.
Cash flow tends to be the most challenging thing, because when you're traditionally employed, you're used to that salary just coming into your account every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Um, and you certainly aren't used to having to chase money, both in terms of collections and in terms of sales. You're the money just arrives because that was the negotiated upon amount, that you had with your employer, and that's what they're giving you. So yes, I'm not at all saying it's not difficult. You are chasing promotions and stuff like that, but it's a different beast,
Yeah.
uh, in a lot of ways, because but budgeting and managing your expenses and managing the timing of payments and timing of receivables, all of those things become very, very important in your business. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. I've been doing this for, I mean, personal training for 19 years, running my own personal
Right.
company for 15. And yeah, a lot of the stuff you're saying really, really echoes with me, which is you get to make your own schedule. The ironic thing is that despite me deciding how many hours like nobody tells me how many hours I need to work or when I can see my clients. If it works for them and it works for me, let's do it. If they want 6 a.m. and I don't want 6 a.m., I'm not doing that. And yet,
Yeah.
despite me being able to set my own schedule, I kind of want to work the,
Yeah,
the amount that I want to work. I work 75 to 85 hours per week, not because I have to, but because I want to. It's fun for me. Um,
absolutely.
and same thing, client wins are my wins. Because again, my specialty is chronic conditions, so type 2 diabetes, PCOS, all that kind of
Amazing.
stuff. And so it's not just, you help a recreational athlete get slightly better, and nothing really changes for them.
Right.
Their life is their life. They run slightly faster, they jump slightly higher. They're not getting a scholarship, they're not getting a pro contract. It's fun, but it's not that meaningful.
Right.
Whereas with chronic conditions, if you're not just for example, if you help a type 2 diabetic become not a diabetic, you've extended their life
Yeah,
by 2 to 3 years.
that's huge.
Yeah. If you help somebody with osteoporosis, prevent a fall, or worst case scenario, they fall and they don't break anything, you've extended their life by maybe 15 years, 10 years. Like you add more years to their life. That's really, really powerful. Not only do you add more years to their life, you add more life to their years.
Yeah. No,
That's
that's huge. That's
Yeah, yeah.
huge.
Yeah, so I mean, all that stuff totally applies, and that's I consider myself a little bit lucky that I left my jobs when I did because I was 23, living with my parents. My expenses were like $500 a month. No
Yep,
mortgage, no groceries, nothing. If I had those regular expenses and no regular income, and I was starting from zero, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to start this thing at least right now, and I would have delayed it probably forever. The fact
totally.
expenses were minimal and I could just go into it without really worrying. All I need to make is $500 a month. That's not very difficult. Um, then it's very different than a job because in a job you can count on an X amount of dollars coming in every month. As an entrepreneur, you can count on starting every month at zero, and you might make 2,000, you might make 20,000, you might make
Yeah.
200,000 that month. But you start at zero.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Like I had very similar safety nets. I too was living with my parents when I started. So not only did I have the safety net of the built-in clients, but I had the safety net of living with my parents. My expenses weren't terribly high. And so, I wasn't feeling the pinch quite like, you have some amazing entrepreneurs out there who have an amazing idea, but they also have families and mouths to feed and they're trying to make ends meet. And I know that there's a giant rhetoric out there, especially with very successful business owners, that like, well, if you're not 100% into this, then you're not into it, and that's simply just not an option for a lot of people. And so definitely in my case, I absolutely had to count my blessings for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, those are two different approaches to entrepreneurship. There
Yeah.
is the stop what you're doing right now and go all in on this new
Yes.
venture. It's super risky, but listen, if you have money saved up and you don't need it to live,
Yeah.
maybe that's the way to go. I mean, there's something to be said for spending 40 to 100 hours per week just doing one thing instead
Yeah.
of 40 hours per week on your main job and then 5 hours per week on your side hustle.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some people don't have that kind of money saved up, so they need to maintain their main job and pursue their business on the side. So I mean, there's both approaches are valid, just for different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel confidence also plays a key role in here. It takes a lot of confidence to decide that you're ready to go out on it on your own.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
it's scary.
I think it's a mix of confidence and naivety.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just a little bit like, yeah, you just got to be a little bit delusional.
Like when I think back to when I was first starting my business, at this point, no, almost 16 years ago, I didn't know anything about marketing or sales. My background is kinesiology, so I knew
Yeah,
anatomy, physiology, biomechanics. I didn't know anything about marketing and sales. I thought it's so simple. I'm getting good results from my clients. I'll just get new clients. Then I realized, oh, people need to know you get good results for your clients, so that requires marketing, right?
totally.
Um, and if I just knew how difficult the marketing aspect of business was going to be, I don't know if I would have ever started it. But then I was already into it, and I'm like, I'm not going to go back to working for somebody else. Let me just keep testing.
It's actually so true. In my opinion, marketing, branding, marketing, it's some of the most important aspects of a business. And unfortunately, it's the first to get cut. Like it's the first to go by the wayside.
Yeah,
And I feel like if more businesses understood the power of having a brand and having really solid marketing, and there are a ton of really great marketing professionals who
yeah,
can help in this arena. But even in spite of that, just you yourself putting the hours into it,
yeah.
it can make such a big difference.
Oh yeah,
It's
no,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Marketing is a lifeblood of a business. If that's the first thing to get cut, the business is out of business pretty soon.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Speaking of marketing, how do you do your marketing? What do you do to get new clients? I know, of course, you mentioned you inherited your the business from your uncle, but what do you do to keep it going? How do you find new clients?
Yeah. So okay, so the nature of my business is it's a little bit cyclical. So usually people really need me from like that January to April time frame.
Yeah,
When taxes are starting to come due, banks are starting to ask for their reporting and all of that kind of
yeah,
stuff. So a lot of the times a really big part of our client base is just word of mouth referrals, which is a solid way to
yeah,
market yourself, of course. Do a good job and the people will come.
yeah,
Um, Now what I found was happening was that um, you know, a lot of people were coming based on the brand equity that was built by somebody else.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but at the end of the day, they have to be coming for me. At the end of the day, I'm the one who's going to be acting on their behalf. I'm the one who's going to be performing the work. Myself and my team are going to be performing the work for them. And so, you know, so sometimes just doing a good job isn't good enough because you don't have that 30-year runway
Yeah.
of building all these relationships. And so, a few things that I started doing was really starting to think about, okay, like what is it that makes you tick? What is it that you're passionate about? To your point, right? Anyone can do a tax return. Anyone can help out a business. Anyone can do these things. But what is it that makes me tick, right? So from the beginning, I sort of understood where I wanted to zero in on. For example, I don't do personal tax returns unless they're for someone who is self-employed.
Right.
And not because I cannot do personal tax returns. It's just because the um the work that they require versus the value that I get from them just isn't there.
Mhm.
And I derive no personal enjoyment from them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to go down that path. And so, then I started sort of having a real honest conversation about, is what kind of clients do I want? So they're the clients that you inherit, or in my case, I inherited, that are already in their established industries, which are wonderful industries. I have clients that are in the manufacturing industry, retail industry, construction industry. They're all really lovely people, all really lovely businesses. But I had to sort of really have an honest conversation with myself about, like, okay, these are great and there's no problem with pursuing people in this area, but like what is it that you're passionate about doing? I know that I've alluded to it earlier. I started getting in touch with a lot of organizations. I started working with TD, their Women in Entrepreneurship area, just to sort of explore the idea of helping female entrepreneurs. So that was something that really made me tick. And that connection actually ended up happening by going to a conference that was specifically meant for female business owners.
Mhm.
So the idea is meant to be that, like, networking will never, like, nothing is ever going to fall in your lap. If you're going to rely solely on word of mouth, it's just never going to happen for you.
Yeah.
But sort of this connection that I did make at TD happened at one of these conferences. And so, I mean, and then she later asked me to speak at another conference, which was really great because it just sort of snowballed from there. And so that's where networking, really actively networking has helped. I've also gotten a ton of really great clients from volunteering. And I know that you mentioned about volunteering as well. Um, Absolutely. I'm very, very, very passionate about civic engagement. And so, anytime you're involved in something that you're passionate about, people can feel it. It's palpable. So then they're suddenly like, okay, so what is it that you do? And then they become interested in working with you because they see the way that you are about a cause that you're very passionate about.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so the third thing, again, it's very active networking, attending events. Like I mentioned before, I had wanted to be a uh I had wanted to direct films. I had wanted to write films. I wanted to be involved in sort of like the arts and entertainment sort of uh publication, even like the publishing of books space. And so I also ended up sort of attending a whole bunch of events in this space, not because I actually wanted a client, but more so because I was just naturally interested in it. And
Yeah.
so I think don't underestimate just even the hobbies that you have can absolutely become networking opportunities. So
I would,
what ended up happening by attending these like conferences that were meant for authors, I now have clients who are authors. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like I get
yeah.
to marry something that I was really passionate about with the work that I do, which is really fantastic. And so don't underestimate just the power of talking to people.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
it's huge.
I think the great irony of informal networking is that, like, if you just go for activities you enjoy, whether that's tennis, golf, being an author, etc., without pitching your business, without even telling anybody what you do, unless of course they ask, you're going to get more clients out of informal events than actual formal events in your niche, in your space where you're
Totally
actually.
agree with that. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like so let's talk for a second about this one event that one event that I attended. Yes, that like one contact that I got at TD was quite a valuable contact which led to other opportunities. I don't think I made a single other contact there that turned into a client. And so I think that's what ends up happening is that people end up being like, "Oh, well, you know what? It's a money pit. I don't know if it's actually going to work." And it's a lot like sort of when you're young and applying for a job, you're going to send out 100 resumes and maybe like five people will respond. Like and that's just and that's what it is. But you can't give up on it. So um
exactly.
I haven't done any of the actual sort of traditional marketing, although I have a friend of mine who worked in sort of um the branding like the brand strategist space,
Yeah.
and her and I our most recent project is to sort of launch a rebrand for myself because I haven't rebranded since I started. Even the logo that I have, the website that I have, it's all very old, because I did just sort of take off running based on the clientele that I had and the clients that I was getting with regards to that. And so, she's sort of opening my eyes to this whole um, aligning who you are personally with what your brand is, because it shouldn't just be that you need to meet Aleena in order to have an understanding of what that is. It should be screamed from wherever we can get in contact with you. I met a lot of really, really interesting, very successful people at some of these conferences, and a lot immediately, the question they ask me when I give them my business card is like, "Are we still doing business cards?" And I was just like, "Are we not?"
You can,
And they're looking for social media presence. They're looking for all these things, which I may or may not be comfortable with. But the point of the matter is that understanding the need to evolve and understanding that it's okay to engage someone to help you get there, it should totally be on your radar.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to give to the viewers and listeners a word of warning, I've hired a lot of marketing people. Over my 15 years, 16 years in business, I've hired probably about 20 people. All 20 were nice people, but only three or four got results. Okay. All
Yeah,
20 said they could get results. All 20 I believe that they believe they could get results, but most of them were full of crap. They didn't know
yeah,
it was full of crap, by the way, but they just couldn't get results. Again, nice people, but they couldn't get results. So don't confuse likability with competence, you know? Um,
yeah, absolutely. That's huge.
I mean, to this day, and I'm glad you touched on it, that face to face is where a lot of your stuff came from. Same for me. I mean, referrals are nice, but the problem with referrals is they're not predictable. You're
Yeah,
waiting for somebody to do something that's out of your hands. Your all you can do is just do a great job. But what they do with that is not in your control. That's
yeah,
why it's nice to have predictability in your business because bills are predictable. So
yes,
your revenue and more importantly, your profit to be predictable. Um, and the nice thing about entrepreneurship, one of my favorite things, is that you can do it your way. For example, I am a giant technophobe. Therefore, I use methods that marketing methods don't require much technology. For example,
Mm,
the big four things that work for me in no particular order. One, public speaking, which I'm just standing in front of a room of people and talking.
yeah,
No technology necessary. Two, a little bit techy, email marketing, but very, very minimal tech. Email marketing is the same as it's been since 1993.
yeah.
It's like algorithm changes on social media that happen every month. Three, believe it or not, door-to-door sales. Door-to-door sales is unchanged since centuries.
I believe it.
Yeah,
I actually do. Yeah, I do believe that.
yeah. And my fourth method, publishing books for not just to make some profit from selling on Amazon, but actually to get clients from those books. And there's specifically a book for that. And two of those require zero technology, two of those require very basic technology. But some people are really, really into tech, and I'm into bottom line results. If it's
Yeah,
tech will get results, if I don't like it, I'll hire somebody who likes it and is good at it. But if I like it, I'll try it. And these are the four things that I really, really enjoy. Stuff that I don't enjoy, if I see the value, I'll hire somebody. If I actually
Absolutely.
want to enjoy it, I'll do it too. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead.
And it's refreshing to me to hear that some of these more traditional methods work for you, right? Because you get a lot of pressure from the outside
Yeah,
to sort of, okay, you have to do this and you have to do that, and you're right. There's no sort of magic formula or secret sauce to this. Whatever it is that you're interested in doing, as long as it is producing the results for you, then it's the right method. There's no right or wrong answer here.
yeah. What's funny to me is when non-entrepreneurs, non-business owners give marketing advice to a business owner, they
Also true.
they have an opinion and zero track record, education, or results to back it up. Just an opinion. And they expect you to take it seriously, which to me is a little
It's
bit
true.
shocking. I mean, how can you have an opinion that you're so tied to without any proof that your idea works?
Very true.
In my
Very,
case,
very
at
true.
any given time, I'm running between 3 to 5 marketing experiments. In my entire 15, 16 years in business, I've probably tried 120 different things. I only, like I said, I only have four things that work. That means I had 116 failures, you know.
Yeah.
So one success for every 25 to 30 failures. That's
Yeah, which is you are 100%, you hit the nail on the head. That is the life of a business owner, right? And
yeah,
it's a few things, right? It's one thing is sort of not giving up.
yeah,
Okay, that didn't work, and the resilience, right? Like you really need to have that resilience. But then the other thing, which I think is the harder thing to do, is to understand your value to the point where if you're talking to a client who you really think is not for you,
yeah.
is turning them down.
Oh, absolutely. And it's way easier to turn them down when you're making enough money that you don't need them. You might want them,
Absolutely.
but you don't need them. Early on in
Absolutely.
your business, you might take on the clients that you know you can't help, and it's still but you need the money. You have to buy
Yeah.
food, pay your mortgage, etc. If you make enough money, you're fine turning down. You're like, I don't need your money. I'm not the best person for the job for you, but here's somebody who's better for me for better than me for that.
Yeah. And even if you need the money, you know, um, this is going to be a little bit of a controversial take, but I think that, with regards to your pricing, because, in a lot of cases, especially if it's a service-oriented business, they're custom quotes that are built for people.
Yeah,
So if you know that it's a client that, I call it the pain in the butt tax. Like,
yeah,
I know you're going to be really challenging for me as a client, and
yeah.
so I'm going to quote a price that I'd be willing to do that work for you for.
Yes. I learned that too. My wife and I, we call it a PETA fee, pain in the ass fee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it. I like it. Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be a headache working with you, and I know that. Here's the amount it would make it worth the headache for me, and here's the
Yeah,
opportunity. Yeah,
totally. And getting yourself there as a business owner where you're comfortable with doing that, because in the beginning, you're either told you should be hungry all the time,
yeah,
or you're told that everything is worth it as long as there's a dollar value attached to it. And
yeah,
sometimes you learn the hard way that that's simply not true.
yeah. Sometimes the money's not worth
Yeah,
it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Now, what are you working on right now that's exciting to you?
It really is just this rebrand. I'm really excited to get a new image out there, potentially maybe looking at a name change, for a myriad of reasons. But just really want to sort of I think when I started the business, so when I took over the business, I did start my own business. I just took my the family business, that the legacy business that was the family business. I took the book of business, but I started my own practice. And I think at the time I was very much so like, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just going to do what I'm told by the person who's been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah,
And I think that, like, now that I'm a decade into the business, there are, sort of areas that I do want to see myself grow in. There are areas that, like, there is a face that I do want to be showing. And I'd finally like my business to sort of, at least the way that it's outward facing, to align with where I'd like to take it. So I am really, really excited about that. Really, really excited about growth, potentially, sort of, at least in the accounting space, a really big way to grow your practice is to buy a book of business.
Yeah.
Now, t technically speaking, like, a lot of people are like, oh, really, you want to go down that path? It's a viable path. It's a great path in my field. And this is where it's important to understand your field. In my field, there aren't as many entrepreneurs who want to do private practice. So you have a lot of people who are retiring out of that space now. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of client work available. And so it is a sort of easier way to do it, but why not if you can make it easier for yourself? So
Well,
these are the opportunities that I'm exploring for myself.
100%. It's so much easier to buy somebody else's business where they've established goodwill, marketing methods,
Totally.
projection systems, etc., than to start your own. I reached out to many, many personal trainers over the years trying to buy their clients. Most of the time, it doesn't work. Even though they might be leaving the industry, leaving their city, retiring, like their clients have nowhere to go. Um, but it's a very good way to go. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you're also going to make a lot of money and you're going to save way more time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so that's the hope.
Absolutely. And what we touched on it a little bit, but let's dive into a bit deeper.
Yeah.
What obstacles have you encountered in your time as both a CPA and an entrepreneur?
I'm sorry, do you mind repeating the question? I totally just cut out a little bit.
Always. What obstacles have you encountered in your time as both
Ah.
a CPA and an entrepreneur?
Oof. Okay, so on the CPA side, the main obstacles are sort of there's a responsibility tied to that professional designation. And so there are calls that are made every day with the work that I do that really require my professional judgment. And so one of the major challenges that I have, which is sort of also tied to entrepreneurship, especially since right now that I am a sole proprietor, is really finding that network within my own profession.
Mhm.
I do have a couple of people that I really trust and that I can bounce ideas off of. Certainly my uncle being one of them, but I really miss that big firm environment that if like you needed an answer, somebody had it. And so this is one of the major obstacles, from a professional standpoint,
Yeah.
which ties in a little bit to the entrepreneurship side of things. In terms of just being an entrepreneur, some of the biggest obstacles that I've had are with and again we touched on it a little bit before, but it's sort of carving out that identity for yourself. And I mean, I suppose that's a little more niche to having a legacy firm, but I think it's very relevant, like understanding who you are and what it is that you stand for and how you want that to be portrayed to the world. Now you're probably wondering, why is that an obstacle? You'd be surprised as to how much of an obstacle that could be.
I totally
Because
get it.
trying to marry what you think would sell with who you are, they're two
Yeah.
very different things. And those are some of the obstacles that I've had.
Yeah, totally. And it's very common for entrepreneurs to say, I need somebody to bounce ideas off of, and I don't know any other entrepreneurs. So where do I go? I totally get it. What's worked for me in the past and currently actually, you ever heard of mastermind groups?
No, I haven't.
So mastermind group is an old concept, but it's just an idea of a bunch of entrepreneurs from different fields get together. So there's going to be one accountant, one florist, one, I don't know, chiropractor, one carpenter, etc. They all get together and they talk about what's working well in their business and what's where can they use some support or ideas from other people in the business.
Hmm.
Um, so I belong to one mastermind group, and there's between 6 and 9 entrepreneurs from different fields all come together, and that's the format. Part one, let's talk about what's going well, because for example, my best marketing strategies, which you now know what they are, all came from outside of personal training. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, how many personal trainers do public speaking? Zero. How many
Right.
personal trainers do door-to-door sales? Zero. That's usually from, realtors, politicians, Jehovah's Witnesses, but not personal trainers.
True.
Um, right? All of my most effective strategies came from other industries. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear what's working for another person. But also it's nice to hear entrepreneurs who've already been there, even if they're behind you in revenue, but they might be ahead of you in terms of that one problem that you have that you haven't solved, but somebody else has. So that's always nice to hear. And lately, just ChatGPT. ChatGPT is such a gold mine. You plug
Oh,
in problem you have. It talks to you like a human being, and you say, okay, I can use this, but I can't use that, and here are the reasons why. And ChatGPT will talk to you like a human. It says, oh, I understand why you can't use that. Well, here's a way to get around that. Um, and a third method that I use to help me with my business challenges is simply consultant.
Yep.
I hired one of the best guys. You know how I said I hired 20 people over my 15, 16 years in business, and three or four I have been good. So one of those who's been good is a very long time like veteran to the personal training industry. His name is Pat Rigsby. So I've been working with him for I think 6, 7 years, on and off. But whenever I have a question, I'll pay him for a consultation. We'll chat, and sometimes I have questions, problems that I think are so complex. He gives me the simplest solution that I go, how did I not think of that earlier? You know, I love it when the answer is such a simple, like almost like negligible solution. You're like, this is so simple. How could I? This is so
Such a
easy.
simple fix. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No, 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 that's true. That's
yeah, yeah,
true. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's fantastic. I mean, I'll definitely look into some of these mastermind groups because I think that that could be something that I could really benefit from.
yeah, yeah. There's like formal mastermind groups where you pay, and you go. There's also informal. You can just start your own. If you know like
Right.
5, 6, 7 entrepreneurs, invite them. Everybody goes for dinner and just chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think that that's sort of indicative of where I see this space going. Everyone, first of all, more people than ever before are now entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? Like almost everybody has some kind of a side hustle in addition
Yeah.
to their job or in addition to their main hustle. And so they are, at least by official definitions, or as I like to call them, tax definitions, they're self-employed to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And so, you really, really do see people come alive in those social contexts,
Yes. Yes.
where they actually do get to meet face to face, and yeah, it's great. It's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've been doing it for a couple of going to masterminds for a couple of years, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Although I do want to distinguish between a freelancer and an entrepreneur. Lots of freelancers think they're entrepreneurs. I guess in an accounting sense, there is no difference, but in a business sense, there is.
True.
Um, an entrepreneur, by definition, runs a profitable business that runs without them. The freelancer is the business. If
Yeah.
they're not working, they're not getting paid. An entrepreneur has systems in place where they have staff members or something doing the work while they're away. The marketing is getting done, the HR is getting done, the actual deliverables are getting done, even if they're not part of the business. Maybe they're not disinvolved completely, but they're not super involved. Like the business doesn't depend on them. They're not the brand. Um, so yeah, from an accounting perspective, it's just all is self-employed. But from a business perspective, there's a freelancer and there's an entrepreneur. Nothing
True.
wrong with either one. It's just different categories.
True.
Uh,
True.
and I
Not just that, though, a freelancer is often offering some sort of service to be employed on a short-term basis,
yes,
which your income, yes, you're right, by tax definition means that you're self-employed, but it doesn't necessarily make you an entrepreneur. And I think entrepreneurship sort of has that inherent understanding that something is being built,
yes, exactly.
um, as opposed to freelancing, which is sort of, um,
You own a job.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just
exactly.
your own job. You're your own boss.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Now, what do you do in your free time?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I have a really, really, really big family. And it's one of those wonderful, large South Asian families where everyone lives on the same street. And so that's how I grew up. I grew up in Markham,
Yeah,
and that's how we lived. And so a lot of my free time, especially since everyone's families are growing, that's where a lot of my free time goes, is spending time with my family.
yeah,
My husband and I actually, so while my business is still based in Markham, and my husband and I recently just moved out to Ajax.
yeah,
Um, um, and so we've been having a good time sort of exploring the our new area and just sort of getting to know. Again, Markham is all I ever knew
yeah,
since
yeah,
I was a child. I think we
yeah,
moved to Markham when I was probably about like 5 or 6 years old.
yeah, yeah,
And so
exactly.
some 30 years later,
Yeah, here we are now.
it was,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it was a really
all
tough
of I know
move.
all about big families. Mine is not that big, but my wife, she's Filipino, and like her dad has like 9 siblings. He's one of 10. And so for us, a
Yep.
small family gathering means 12 people. It's very,
Oh,
very,
yep.
it's,
Yep.
it's
That
very
sounds about
difficult.
right.
It's expensive for reservations at restaurants for 12 people.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. It's funny because my husband isn't from my culture, and so it was a very similar culture shock for him where he was like, "Oh, this is a
How old are you?
lot of people." And he's like coming over to meet my parents for the first time, and there are probably at least 16 people in the home, and he's just kind of like, "I thought I was just meeting your parents."
Never just that.
It's never just that, but yeah, no. So, definitely spending time with family, spending time with my husband. Recently, I've really been trying to, I guess I've been inspired by all these publishing conferences that I've gone to. I've really thought about, or rather, I've gotten back into reading, which I was such an avid reader when I was a kid, and I think sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you totally get sucked into your business, and
Oh,
then you forget about all the things that are just fun to you, like what's fun to me, and so carving out the time to really fill your own cup, it's so important,
oh, I
and
hear you. Yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff I would love to do if my business wasn't so much fun to me. For example, I've
yeah,
played tennis once or twice per week. I'd love to play more.
yeah,
I've always dreamed about doing gymnastics, and I still want to do like adult gymnastics. I want to go back to martial arts. I did martial arts for about 12 years, but
wow,
I haven't, since my instructors moved out to Ottawa, I haven't found a good school. Like there's all this stuff I want to do, but I also want to keep growing my business. So it's
yeah.
which direction, and they're all fun to me. Like which one do I go with?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. And that's what like and to your point, just really getting yourself out there and trying new things. Last year, or the past couple of years, I told my husband I want to try teaching. Like I want to try doing this at the sort of at the college or the university level. So like let's see if we can try this. So I did try that for a bit. And it
Yeah.
was wonderful because it merged together all these things that I was really, really passionate about, which was, really making people understand, breaking down difficult concepts and making people understand them, getting up in front of a room full of people. Public speaking is sort of my area of interest too. So I totally understand that method of marketing. But teaching was just another way for me to sort of hone those skills. So that was really, really lovely. And I think, it's funny because I think I really like to travel. My husband's a little bit more of a homebody, but he definitely just humors me and just goes wherever I want to go. And so, I'm always, I think, planning the next trip, and he's always just sort of like, why don't we just tell everyone we're on vacation and stay at home?
Yeah. It's actually very, very similar to my wife and I. I'm the homebody.
Yeah.
For 17 years before I met her, I didn't take a single vacation.
Oh,
Like,
right on.
then I met her, and she has a bucket list. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make my bucket list your bucket list. Wherever you want to go, let's go there.
Yeah, you sound like my husband. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, everywhere is good. Like, there's some countries that I don't want to go to, but none of those countries that I don't want to go to are on her list, so we're good.
Yeah, so so you're aligned. Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
it's amazing, right? It's amazing how much even your partner's interests can sort of open up the world for you. My husband is really, really into photography, and so is my brother. And so my brother's been toying with the idea of starting an Instagram channel. And I'm this was something that I really loved. Filmmaking was something that I really loved right from the beginning. So it's nice sort of having that even just within your family, that built-in community to do things with, especially when you're not working on your business.
Yeah, nice to have playmates as adults.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And since this is, after all, a Best of Markham podcast, what's your favorite business in Markham besides your own?
Yeah, I was giving this a lot of thought, and I think that my favorite business in Markham is Smash Kitchen and Bar, which is a
I
restaurant that I'm sure you're familiar with. So they've
absolutely.
also spun off into a catering business called OG Catering.
Cool.
And what I really, really appreciate about their menus, so I come from a family that observes halal, and implicitly, we don't get a lot of access to foods that aren't ethnic
Right.
foods. And so what's really cool about OG Catering and Smash Kitchen is that they take foods that are traditionally, not halal, but they're like, hey, we can offer this in halal if you need it. And I think that that's really, really cool and really, really perceptive to what the demand is in the marketplace. So I think it's,
Absolutely.
for both cases, it's something that I very much so appreciate that
Yeah.
they do, but also, I mean, their food is delicious. So
Yeah. You might
you
be my
really can't go
third or
wrong.
you might be my third or fourth podcast guest who actually said like that answer, Smash Kitchen, to the answer of your favorite business in Markham.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah. I have yet to eat there. I pass by all the time, but I have yet to eat there. So I'm
Oh, it's pretty
prioritizing.
good.
Awesome. Cool, cool.
Yeah, it
Well,
is it is solid.
last question. How can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is through my website, which is www.siddiqui, SIDDIQICPA.com. On there, you'll find my direct phone number. Yes, that is my direct phone number. Yes, I actually answer my phone because I come from a mom who hates calling a number and getting an automated.
Yes,
She doesn't like talking to machines. She only likes talking to people. So I
totally.
will absolutely answer your phone calls, but also my email is on there as well, which is Aleena, Aleena, at SiddiqiCPA.com.
Perfect. And all that content information will be in the show notes as well. Alina, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.